In a moment, we will recite the prayer for the welfare of the state of Israel, and we will also recite the prayer for the welfare of our government in the United States. And a thought to proceed. The rabbis made a connection between the word Sinai and Sinai. Sinai and Sinai. Sinai is the name of the mountain. Sinai is the Hebrew word for hatred. They connected the idea that a people that brought this law into the world, a people that would be set apart by Torah, would also earn the enmity of others. That was the situation in their time. I'm sorry to say that that is the situation in our own, and I thought of this connection more than once this past week. There is a narrative about the state of Israel that speaks of it as a colonial state and an apartheid state, that speaks of Israelis as those who are committing acts of genocide in the world. And here in the city of Chicago, we have seen that narrative, unfortunately, come with full force. Parents, Jewish parents of children in the Chicago public schools, had to counsel their children as to how to manage a walkout in support of a resolution condemning Israel, with barely a mention of Hamas, laying all responsibility of the war at the feet of Israel. The pressure, the isolation that our children were feeling was immense. Parents had to sit with their children and make a decision as to whether or not their children should attend school, whether their children should walk out or suffer even more abuse and feel more isolated. And then parents had to make a decision as to whether their children needed a day off, a mental health day, the following day, because for many this was traumatic. Traumatic that in some schools, like Jones, Jewish children were counseled by the school, purporting itself to be open-minded and a place where all views were welcome, also advising Jewish children not to wear blue, as the school might not be able to protect them. And you are all aware of the circus that took place in our city council. Our one Jewish alderwoman, Deb Silverstein, who has been a remarkable leader throughout, stood up after spending the last week trying to speak to the mayor about writing a resolution that would be more balanced, a resolution that all of the city council could have gotten behind, only to be ignored by our mayor, stood up and was greeted with abuse from the gallery and from some of the council people, shouting her down and booing her. All the while, the mayor took his time in disciplining the room. And then the vote came, There were older people who were going to vote against this resolution, who were advised by the mayor and his team not to come, to ensure that there would be a victory. For the mayor, I suppose. And as this meeting went on, none other than Jesse Jackson was brought into the room, I imagine, for moral support. And our older woman, Angela Clay, was seen bringing Jesse Jackson a keffiyeh. Sinai, Sina. It is striking that we are reading from the portion of Yitro this morning. Our mayor was the tiebreaker. And so, as we say the prayer for our country, I want us to remember that we live in a participatory democracy, that our votes matter, that our participation in the democratic process matters, and that, as was said so well, all politics are local. We need to be involved in the choices of our elected officials. We need to raise our voices. We who stand with Israel, we who feel the pain of this moment, we who do not look away at the suffering in Gaza and feel that pain as well, we are also aware that a war like the one that has been foisted on Israel has never been fought before, where the civilian population is above ground and the enemies are below ground in safety in their tunnels. And Israel is attempting to manage this war. Not perfectly, we are human beings, but morally, the best of their ability. It is also noteworthy that we will also be chanting Mavarchim HaChodesh today. We will be welcoming the new month of the first Adar. Adar, as we are all aware, is the month in which we celebrate Purim. We note Haman and the hatred that he wrought. But it is also a story, fittingly, for this Sisterhood Shabbat, when we talk about Esther, a Jewish woman who was living in a challenged moment, who stood up and spoke, who raised her voice for her people, who brought her passions forward, who called for justice at a time of injustice and was heard. This is the moment in which we live.